In this pod, we'll look at what the government does that affects the economy.
The government is an organisation that runs the country. It creates laws and controls other organisations with an overall aim of driving the country forward. Here, we're going to focus on the key areas the government regulates.
The first area is infrastructure. Infrastructure is all around us, but it's quite hard to define. It's all the physical systems that make up and connect a country. This could be roads, power supplies, or even our internet connection. The government is in charge of maintaining or creating these systems. For example, a few years ago, you could only connect your mobile to a 3G network, and then there was 4G, and then 5G. The government was responsible for developing and improving these networks, which ultimately benefits us, the public. Whenever you see roadworks going on, the government is responsible for that too. They may not do the actual work, but they're in charge of looking after infrastructure.
Legislation is the way that governments get things done. Legislation means the law. Although there's much more to it, in short, laws get recommended, debated in Parliament, and if they're agreed on, they get passed. This then becomes something we have to follow, the aim being for the good of society.
There are thousands of examples of laws, but one example in the recent past was the smoking ban. In 2007, it became illegal to smoke in enclosed public spaces. This was done to protect people from the dangerous effects of secondhand smoke and to improve public health. But it meant that lots of businesses had to create outdoor smoking shelters or areas so employees or customers had somewhere to go if they wanted to smoke. This is an added cost to a business.
The government is in charge of trade policy too. This is where it negotiates trade deals with other countries. Most countries charge taxes to other countries when customers import goods from them, but to try and improve trade, the government will try and negotiate deals. This makes it easier to sell things abroad and also makes it cheaper to buy products that have been imported, which, in the UK, is most of the products we buy.
It's also important to understand a government's impact on business. Governments want business to be successful and create competition. The more businesses there are, the more competition, and competition leads to fair prices and improves quality. As well as this, the more businesses there are, the more employment there is. All of these things help the country. So the government runs schemes to try and encourage business growth and enterprise. For example, if you go on the gov.uk website, you'll find huge amounts of advice that covers setting up a business all the way through to running it.
The government can also influence consumer spending. It can do this in many ways. One is through laws and regulation. For example, we've already mentioned the smoking ban, but the government continues to pass new laws aimed at reducing the number of people who smoke and to increase taxes on cigarettes. The result is that people spend less on these products. The government also influences interest rates, which impact how likely people are to save or spend money. So, if they increase interest rates, it decreases consumer spending in general, not just on one type of good, like cigarettes.
The next area is public services. When we talk about public services, we mean all the organisations operating within the country that the government is in charge of. For example, in the UK, schools, hospitals, the police, the fire service, and so on. The aim of public services is to help citizens within society, whether this is through providing education or healthcare, or any of the other aims of these organisations. So they don't aim to make a profit, but instead provide a service to benefit the public.
But how does the government pay for things like public services and infrastructure? Well, through taxing the public and businesses. People are never happy with tax, but without it, the government wouldn't have any money for anything within the country. Roads wouldn't get repaired, hospitals would close, there would be no free education, and so on. So, tax is necessary. How much the government taxes us does change, though. This depends on what they're trying to achieve, who's in power, or the state of the economy. For instance, when the UK went into a recession around 2007 and lots of people lost their jobs, the government reduced some taxes to try and encourage the public to spend more. This created jobs, but it also benefited those who had less to spend.